Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Extraordinary Games podcast. This is actually the first real episode of the podcast today, and we're going to be talking about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and kind of like a little bit of history of like other Smash games as well. So Melee and previous ones that we played. My co-host today is Logan. We've worked together and talked a lot about video games in the past, and he's kind of my resident Smash expert, even though he probably wouldn't say he's an expert.
I'm not really an expert, but I play. I got like something like a couple hundred hours in the game, but I'm not. I know a lot of other people have probably more. Like that's a general consensus. Like the game is, it's very very much played. Like if you play it competitively, you have to have more than that. There's no freaking way. But I try my best to understand some things.
Well, all I know is we played probably I would say probably like 100 to 150 matches between the course of our just random getting on and playing, and I think I've won probably like 5 of those. And that might be generous, actually.
No. It's because, so here's the thing. Like when you play against someone like brand new in the game, like someone who's, especially because you play like 2D fighters a lot, right? Like you're not really a platform fighter person. Like it's harder for you to understand, like every character in the game has like kind of the similar moves, but the moves aren't exactly the same. Whereas like a 2D fighter, characters in the game play completely differently. Like they have like some crazy gimmick. Like every character I feel like in 2D fighters has like that gimmick, but in Smash, like they have their own gimmick, but it's just so slightly different on like so many moves that I guess it's harder for like someone to jump into that, especially if they like grew up playing just 2D fighters, you know?
So I was actually thinking about this the other day. The thing that makes Smash Brothers unique is like every character kind of has a tool set. And with a lot of like standard 2D fighting games, that tool set is kind of like it's ubiquitous with all the characters. So every character has different moves, and they kind of work differently, but they all have a very similar base move set. But when it comes to Smash Brothers, that's not necessarily the case. Certain characters like play entirely different from each other, and it's almost like playing a different game if you switch to a different type of character, if that makes any sense.
No, that's 100. I mean, yeah. So basically, the way you first put it with like how in fighting games they all like with Shotos, right? Like let's say a Shoto in a fighting game or like grappler, and then you're ranged. We have those in Smash, but they're all still trying to do the same thing to like kill people. It's just the way they do it is a little bit different. And I know like in 2D fighters, it's a little bit more unique kind of style, at least the way I think of it. And but your example of like two characters playing drastically different from each other is 100% true. Because I mean, when you think of Olimar in Smash Bros. Ultimate, he's got the Pikmin. And like every Pikmin does something different. He has like launch ranges that are different on one Pikmin, and then he has like fire damage or electric damage on like other Pikmin. Like he's a very unique character, like very strange. Like I literally can't play Olimar for my life, but I understand what I'm supposed to do with him.
Yeah.
And then you got Mario, like he's the basic dude, and even himself, he like plays his own way. So yeah, it's a lot like that. Like even Lucario, his play style is he wants to get a ton of damage because as much damage as he gets on him, he's gonna deal that much more back to you, kind of thing. So like you never want to fight like a late game Lucario or something like that. Like yeah, it's true. All the characters are very drastically different in their gimmicks, which is pretty impressive actually when you think about it. Because there's like 80 something characters, 90. No, it's like 80 something.
Like I'm literally like I'm trying to find the screen of all of the characters currently in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and it's obnoxious. It's huge, and like I just think of like the amount of work that has to go into even making this game remotely balanced is insane. Because if you so if you think of like even starting out in like a regular so let's say Street Fighter 2. There are I think the original Street Fighter 2 had 8 characters. And even that game wasn't balanced. And now you're looking at a roster of like 80 and like
89 actually.
yeah, 80,
Exactly.
89 characters. I don't even know where I would begin to try to make this like a balanced fighting game. And I think the other strange thing about that is like I get that there are tier lists because there are tier lists in any
Yeah,
fighting game.
that's just the way tier lists are, though. Like, tier lists are always going to be very opinionated. Like, one person, even if they're a pro player, they're bound to say something that a majority of people won't agree with. Like, that's
Yeah.
just the way it is.
Yeah. I like it's the tier list of this game. Like I've looked at it a few times and it makes sense, but it's still like it's not as cut and dry as a tier list in like a 2D fighting game. Like there are literally characters in 2D, like regular 2D fighting games, or even stuff like Mortal Kombat like 11, which is a technically like a modern 2D fighter, where there are characters that are completely unusable. And with Smash, I feel like the amount of those characters that are completely unusable, and I'm using air quotes right now, even though nobody can see it, is insane. Like it's so small comparatively to other fighting games, meaning that this game has to be pretty damn well balanced comparatively to the others. Now that doesn't mean like every character is not going to be like, oh, like you can play any character and crush, but a fair amount of them you can actually hold your own with, which is pretty good.
Yeah, if you're like, it really depends on who you fight, to be honest, in Smash Bros. It's like you can. I think that's in every fighting game. I think it's just like that in fighting games. Um, but my personal experience, it's like I'll play, I don't know, I'll play Ganondorf, and like so many top players say Ganondorf is the worst character in the game, terrible character. But the majority of people, right, online or like noobs or whatever, they will swear on their life that Ganondorf is the most busted character in the game because of his damage. He
Yeah.
has so much damage, and like it's like how you view the toolkit and how you think you can play. Like that will determine whether or not your character is going to be good. Like the player really does make the character in this game, like genuinely. There's some matchups that are always going to be like bad or rough, like that's just the way it is. But in Smash, I feel like it's very similar to a lot of fighting games, even though people think it's not considered a fighting game
Well,
because a lot of stuff. Yeah,
it's not that it's not a fighting game. Like
yeah,
it is a fighting game, even though it's different from every other fighting game. Like it's its own genre now. Now they have that like what is it, Nickelodeon All Stars
Brawl Stars. Yeah,
yeah, and then they have
and
like
Rivals of Aether.
yeah. There's like a ton of games that are similar to this. I have this like similar like party fight game mechanic thing going on.
Yeah.
I do consider like a fighting game. It's just very different from any other fighting game. The way I think of it is like, okay, so you're
typical fighting game.
yeah. So like, let's say back in the day you were playing fighting games, right? You had like your standard 2D fighters. So you had like your Street Fighter, your Mortal Kombat, your Killer Instinct, things like that. And then when 3D fighters came in, you had like Tekken and Virtua Fighter, and everybody was like, "Oh, those aren't fighting games. They're broken." Blah blah blah.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang,
No,
I
this
didn't know
is
that.
a legitimate thing. Like what was it? Mortal Kombat 4 came out, and there were people that just Mortal Kombat 4 is a bad game to begin with, but there were people that were
Jeez.
like, they would just not play Mortal Kombat 4 because it was a 3D fighting game, and it didn't play like a 2D fighter, and people instantly thought it was like wasn't balanced. But nowadays, like you look at tournaments and you have like, games like Tekken being played, Virtua Fighter still being played. Like there are 3D fighting games that are still good. Soul Calibur, for example, like there are 3D fighting games in tournaments all the time now, given 2D fighting games are what a majority of pro players tend to gravitate towards. And I think there's like it's kind of just like there's something to 2D fighting games where there's a limited amount of randomness to it versus like 3D fighters or something like Smash. So Smash, like there's so many different characters you have to evaluate and have strategies for if you go up against them. And a lot of 2D fighters don't have a roster that big. So you you know what your picks and counter picks are right off the bat. You don't have to like be like, oh my god, I've never played against like who the hell's playing like Little Mac right now. You know, why the hell do I have
Oh
to
no,
figure out
like you don't even know, bro. There's a pro player named Peanut. He goes crazy with Little Mac. Oh my gosh.
But that's the thing. A lot of
yeah.
people will train against like specific players. They'll train with specific players and have specific strategies. And then when you have like this person that comes out of left field that's really good with the character that you might not know, and you might run into them in a tournament, like why would you want to risk that when you can just stick to something like Street Fighter 5 or whatnot, where you know what the roster is and you know what your counter pick is right off the bat, and you don't have to worry about any other like weird shit happening. Like it's just a very limited amount of variation in 2D fighters, which is why I personally think like a lot of people just will choose a 2D fighter over something like this anyways.
Do you think that it's because it's easier to learn, like less characters are easier to like understand versus like so many? That's like, is that the point you're trying to?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like
yeah.
like okay, if I'm playing like Ryu and I go up against a Zangief or a Blanca or whoever, like they've been in games previously and they're pretty much like they've evolved over the course of time, but I know what that moveset is. I know what I'm coming into. It seems like with Smash Brothers in particular, while yes, there are like specific combos that you can do with specific characters that are like tried and true, like somebody could come out of left field and fucking play Steve and just like wreck your day. Like just
you don't even know. Okay, like champion. You're saying like characters that are like just, oh man, like okay. There's a huge controversy on Steve right now, actually, which is a big deal. But we can talk about that later.
I'm not surprised.
When it comes to like I keep saying champions because I've been playing League. Okay, when it comes to characters, you know, the fighters inside Smash, it's like there's so many. I think the moment I started to really like learn Smash was when Ultimate came out. So I played Brawl. I played a little bit of Melee at one point, but when I really got sucked in was definitely like Smash Ultimate. Like that's when I really started learning everything. And to me, like as a player, I just got dumped right into this massive roster. Not to mention like the two whole packs of DLC characters that came out like after the game's release. Like
which is, it's not only just DLC characters. Like a lot of time you'll get a DLC character in a fighting game and it's like, you know, they're at least somewhat based off a character that's already been in the fighting game or whatnot. Whereas this one, it's like you tell me another fucking character in this game that's like Steve or fucking Sora. Like there are certain ones that you're just like, what the shit? Like how do you even account for that?
There's certain characters like them, but not exactly like them. And the reason why all the characters are so diverse, like they have to, like there's certain characters that are not, like, you know, exceptions would be like Daisy and Peach. They're Echo Fighters. Like there's certain characters in the game called Echo Fighters that just, they're completely based on another character. They do the same thing. Samus and Dark Samus, same character, do the same thing. They just look a little different. They have like slightly different things. Like there's Dark Pit and Pit. They're considered Echo Fighters, but they have much more varying movesets.
Yeah, it's not like you're talking about like Mega Man and fucking Sonic. Like those are very different fighters.
Like, but the point I was originally going to make was all the characters are so unique because they all come from their own games. Like Sakurai specifically went through games and was like, this character needs to have everything that this character does in their game. And like, I want to make them, you know, like, I want to make them do everything that a player of their original game would really appreciate. You know, like they'd see a move and be like, wow, I know that. Like for the Pokemon, every Pokemon inside Smash, all their moves are based off of actual Pokemon moves in the games. Like Incineroar does Darkest Lariat. That's like his signature move as like in like the original game for like his Pokemon region. I can't remember it off the top of my head right now. I think it was Unova. I could be wrong. But like they all do their same thing. There's a fighting type move called Cross Chop that he does. Pikachu does all his thunder attacks, but they all have like real moves. I think his recovery is quick attack, but I'm not 100% certain. But it's like
it's amazing. First of all, it's amazing that that's even a thing. Like I remember when like I first started playing Bayonetta, and I was like, holy shit, it's so close to playing a fucking Bayonetta game. Like down to like the witch time, like the whole thing is just that's like what it's like playing Bayonetta. You go over to like Simon and you're like, oh, this is like you're playing fucking
Just like
Castlevania.
Castlevania.
Yeah, it's amazing how much work they did to just make the characters feel like they were pulled directly from that game, but yet utilized in this like party fighting game system, and it all just seems to like cohesively work. And I find it funny when people complain about like certain characters not being in the game, and I'm just like, dude, look at all you have. Like,
Oh yeah, the Smash players. I don't know if it's the Smash community, but I will say that it's a good amount of people that like always have something to say about the characters. It's like, damn, you put that character in the game. Why'd you do that? And I'm not gonna lie, I was one of them at one point. I was steaming it. Like when I first saw the game, and like I'm looking for DLC fighters and everything. Every single time a new DLC fighter was going to be announced, I was like, it's going to be Monster Hunter character. It's going to be a Monster Hunter character. It's going to be so sick. I was so hyped. Then we were like, oh, it's definitely going to be Dante. Dante's got to be in the game. There was a moment where like me and a friend of mine, we were like super. He's way more into Devil May Cry than I am, but like, bro, like I just wanted to see the character in the game because he's just such an interesting and fun character. I was like, imagine the moveset he would have. I was
yeah,
so
but
excited.
like, do
And
you honestly think if they put Dante in this game, they
no, no,
would?
no, ready? This is
Well,
what they did. This is the funniest part. Is that they did put those characters in the game, but they're not playable characters. They're me characters. Like they're
yeah,
costumes for your me fighter. And I was like, oh, like they got us with that one. They got us. Like
yeah,
they tried. They really tried to. I think that like after a while of like seeing the me costumes, I was like, you know what? Like they tried really hard to put these characters in the game, like to get everyone check all their like boxes, to get everyone excited. Even if your character was in the game, he was still technically in the game. And I think that was like one of the greatest things that I'll always appreciate about Sakurai is that he worked his ass off. He literally did so much for the community that if anyone in the Smash community talks shit about Sakurai, I'm just like, bro, you are a terrible human being. Like, do you not know how much he worked a day and night to make it so at least a little bit of your character probably was in the game? Like, come on, man. Like,
yeah. I know
you
when
know,
was it? I can't. I think it was either Brawl or Melee, where they were doing interviews about like the making of the game, and it was like Sakurai was like killing himself pretty much
yeah, he was
trying to get
exhausted.
everything, yeah, trying to get everything in. And I'm thinking about Ultimate. I'm like, oh my god, does this guy sleep? Like this had to have been like 7 years of just him just not sleeping or sleeping in his office trying to get shit done.
Oh yeah,
But I mean, it's this is going to go down as one of the greatest games probably ever made, I would have to say.
I hope so. I really hope
Yeah,
so.
with the roster it has and how fairly well balanced it is, the amount of stages, just the amount of content. Like,
There's some things. So like with the whole thing, with like you say things are balanced. It's not okay, like it is balanced to an extent. But
yeah,
like as a player, like for me, I feel like there's some characters in the game that's just not it's just not fair to fight against them. And that could be because I'm bad. Like I'll say that right now. I'm not the greatest player. I'm okay. But there's some characters in the game where I just feel like I have no chance. And unless the person, like if the person knows their champion, jeez, if the person knows their character, like the best, like they practice this character every day. They know every little bit about it. They know exactly how to launch. They know what move's gonna like kill, right? And I do the same thing with a character that I like. I feel like if my character has a losing matchup against their character, I don't know if I'll win, like or I'll feel like I'll have to work harder to win. And that's not like anything like I'm disappointed about, but it's definitely something that I've noticed sometimes, like personally. Like I'll maybe win, maybe lose, but I'll think in my head, damn, that was a hard match for me. Like that was hard. Like they're a great player, I'm a great player, but when it comes down to the characters, like I just don't have a lot of options against some of them, that's why people have counter picks. They usually have like pocket characters, like a good handful of characters that like pro players will play. Like look at the greatest player in the world. Right now, the greatest player in the world is MKLeo. He is undoubtedly one of the best players in the world. Like I don't even know how he does it. But he started with Joker. I don't really know how many other characters he played, but I do know that he also has his Byleth and his Ike, right? Like he used to go Ike a lot, and then when Joker came out, he just stuck to Joker for like forever. Joker was considered the greatest character in the game at that point, still is by some people. And then he went Byleth, and no one thought Byleth was gonna be good. Like everyone thought, bro, Byleth's too slow. Byleth doesn't have a lot of like Byleth is kind of like Ganondorf in a way, lots of damage. Um, but you know, Byleth is faster, has some good range, and somehow he made it work. And it just feels like I don't even get how he does that. Like personally, I think that there's just some matchups that you just can't play against. Like,
Well,
and
that's
that's why
the
people have pocket characters.
Well, it's also like if you talk to a lot of Smash players too, they will gravitate towards specific characters. And the weird
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
about it is, it's not even how good the character plays. This is one of those games where if you like a character, like you just go in and you're like, I fucking love Wario for whatever reason, for what other games, you can
That's
just
true.
learn fucking Wario, and he may
Hmm.
not be the one that's like gets picked at tournaments and shit, but you can get good enough to like hold your own with Wario most of the time. And that's
Hmm.
like the crazy thing about it. Like I've been like listening to like different podcasts and stuff, and a few times Smash Bros has come up, and somebody comes up and they're just like, you know what, I started out with Zelda and I just always use Zelda. Like that's it. Like right off the bat, that's the only character I use. Or like, oh, every time I pick up the game for whatever reason, Jigglypuff's my character, and I just stay with it. And it's insane to me because it's like so many different characters, but a lot of people will just gravitate towards a handful, and like those are their characters, and that's it.
It,
And
this,
if they get counterpicked, they get counterpicked. They're gonna try to work around it, but otherwise, like
yeah,
that's the character they're going with.
like there's definitely a consensus of like top tiers in this game, just like every fighting game. But when it comes down to like picking your character, there are diehards that they'll just go in headstrong, like, and they will win. They will do good. Like I said, the player really makes the character. Sometimes, but sometimes it's like when it comes down to like a character versus character, best player on either side of those characters, and one is just naturally better than the other, it's either going to be a very, very hard win for the losing matchup, or they're just going to lose. Like, I think that's just the way it is. Like, and that's why, like I said, people pick their pocket champions. At least in pro plays, I feel like a lot of pro players have their pocket champions. Like anyone, I'm just gonna keep saying champions. To be honest, I'm sorry.
I mean,
Anyone, they're
I
just
mean, really,
they're just gonna,
it's like tomato
it's the
tomato at
same
this
thing.
point. Yeah,
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 it's the same thing.
it's the character you play as. You call it champion, you call it
Yeah,
character, you call it fucking person, you whatever you want to
yeah,
call
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Like that's who you're picking.
But yeah, like they'll always have a little bit of a counter matchup ready to go. Like they know who people main, they know what's going on, and they're gonna try their best to like, if you're a pro player, you're gonna try to learn a character that really works for you, but you're also not gonna try to not win, right? Like that's just the way it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's like you're not gonna like. Why would you even go about like playing if you're not going to win? Like somebody, if you're gonna pick a character, you're picking a character that's gonna try to get you the win most of the time.
yeah.
I even in 2D fighters, I'm the same way. But I also am the type of person that's like, okay, you know what? I feel like I want to have a little bit of fun, and I'll try like some other character. Like it's literally the reason why I pick Dan in a lot of games, because Dan is such a shitty character. But if I'm playing like Capcom versus SNK and I'm just having fun match after match, I might just throw Dan in there just to like fuck with people. Like I might just do it just because. And I think
Yeah,
the
yeah,
same thing
exactly.
happens in every game though. Like sometimes like somebody's just gonna be like, you know what, Pokemon trainer today, whatever. like,
Yeah.
like
Well, there's a lot to choose from. It's like, why wouldn't you? There's too many not to feel like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to like, especially if you learn your champions so well, like inside and out, and you just been winning or losing, whatever it is. You're just kind of like, you know what, today I just want to try a random, random other champion that I saw, and who knows, maybe it'll click, maybe it won't. It's just really fun to try out all those move sets, and like I said before, because the move sets depict not only the character but the game where the character's from. It's
yeah.
kind of satisfying to like try them out and be like, wow, I didn't know that was a thing.
So I gotta ask, what is the first Smash game that you played? Because I distinctly remember when I first played Smash, like back in the day. Um, Yeah, my first was like I went over a friend's house and he had an N64, which is something I didn't have. I was like, when the second PlayStation came out, I was like, fuck yeah, PlayStation all the way. Screw cartridges. So like I went over
Yeah.
his house and we were playing what the hell were we playing at first? Might have been just like Mario 64 or something stupid. No, I know what it was. I think it was Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer. And then like he busted out this like Super Smash Brothers cartridge. I was like, this looks lame as fuck. I'm like, it's got like Mario on it. Like, what am I
The
looking at?
blocky faces, you know, they look like cartoon, like it's just really very awkward for the time.
Yeah, and he's like, dude, no, it's a fighting game. I'm like, no, this is not. Like, you're fucking with me. And then we started playing, and I was like, this is weird yet cool all at the same time. And it's also strange to me that, like, if you think about it, this genre's been around for like 2 decades, and it's pretty much for the first decade it was around, it was just Smash. Like, it seemed like nobody really tried to copy this shit. It was
Nope.
like
No, yeah.
it was like Nintendo did it, and we're just gonna kind of just let it go.
I think when Smash 4, I could be 100% wrong, but personally, from what I've seen, like for myself, I'd say around Smash 4 is when they started realizing, like, because, you know, the tournaments were like, they were very small still, but people started to be like, oh, I gotta put this, like, games were starting to go into development, like platform fighters were starting to be, like, more, you know, interesting. And then when Ultimate came out, like, all these other games started, like, popping up. I think the development started around, like, Smash 4. I don't know I don't have the biggest knowledge of games back then, so like I could be wrong if there was another platform fighter that was popular back then during Smash 4. But I think during Smash 4 the idea started to happen, and then the moment Smash Ultimate released, like the year of or the year after, like all these other platform fighters started popping up, like really, really good. Like I know Rivals of Aether got a huge blow up. I don't know if it came out before then or not, but I know it got a huge blow up. Like I got it myself. I loved it. Nickelodeon Brawl Stars. I mean,
Oh my god.
I don't even need to say anything about that one. That was deliberately like, you know, they saw Ultimate and they're like, we can do what Nintendo does. Like, there's no way. There's no way they did not think that. And then, and the same thing for the DC multiverse. Multiverse did the same thing, you know. And those games were pretty popular. They just had a tournament not too long ago for the multiverse game, and a lot of pro Smash players actually were in it, and they were doing some real good work. I'm not gonna lie. Like it was actually satisfying to play. It was like 2v2s. It was so good.
I actually think that's probably why they did it, though. Is they were like, we can probably get some of these Smash players,
Yeah,
like
they
to,
did.
to
Yeah.
play this in tournaments. And it's, if you think about it, it's genius, because if you have Smash players playing, like people know Smash players, like there are obviously like famous like tournament Smash players, and
That
if
was
you're
one of the
bringing that
reasons why I
over to
watched.
DC, exactly, you have like
Yeah.
these players playing a new game. I mean, that's just eyes on your game. It's really genius.
Yeah, I saw Void and the cat pop off. I was so like, oh my gosh, I loved watching them play. And then at the end, like the cat came, he's like Wonder Woman, bro. What are you guys talking about? She's not busted at all, or like something like that. I was just like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah,
just
I
just
mean,
just
why
the
wouldn't you
fact that
though?
he's
Like,
no, I,
why wouldn't you do
actually
it? You know?
I think he said she was busted. It's hard to remember that point. I just remember I was laughing so hard because he just grabbed the mic. He just walked up out of nowhere, and just started talking so much shit. It was so funny. It was like the first. I don't know if it was the first, but it was definitely the first one I saw that was like really big on multiverse, and I was so excited to see them win.
But it's also cool because that's probably a good thing for the genre as a whole. Like this, I've always worried that like this thing would be like once Sakurai like retires or whatnot, like this would just be it. Like you have Smash Ultimate, and that's all there is. At least now there's other games coming out.
That's actually what I was kind of hoping, but just for Smash. You know, like Sakurai said it himself. You know, he's like, "This is the last one I'm ever gonna do for Smash." And you know how Nintendo is. You know, Nintendo's just one of those companies that they just like they see money and they're like, "What can I say?" Like they'll do anything.
They really
And
will.
that's what I'm kind of worried about for Smash. Is like, you know, Sakurai says it's it. And if he's done, then the game is not gonna like pop off. Obviously, he is Smash. There is no Smash Bros without Sakurai. And if they try to like make him make another one, I don't know if he's creative. Like I don't know if he'll be in it, Like I feel like he'll either be forced to do it because he doesn't want to see his like legacy die in like a bad way, or he just won't do it and Smash Bros will just stop being good after Smash Ultimate. There's just nothing that's going to be good after that if they try to make another one. And I hope Nintendo doesn't do that, like for a lot of reasons. I actually think Smash Bros. Ultimate is a fantastic game to end it on. Like, this is good. They've done everything really, really well. I mean, if Sakurai willingly decides to go and make another Smash Bros. Game, I'm all for it. But if, you know what I mean? Like, I think that he did such a good job with Ultimate. I think that he put so much into it to like really have a send off, like to be his like last one. I think they should just respect it and let it be. I think that Smash Ultimate's a fantastic game to end on.
But do you like? That's the thing. I honestly think Nintendo, if they were smart, they would kind of just like let Ultimate like ride out, like just let it do its thing, right? And then maybe like we'll say like 6, 7, 8 years from now, whenever like hypothetically like the next Switch or whatever they release is like going strong,
right.
Then you can bring it back. But with that being said, I don't know how they would. Like, I don't know if they would just take what Ultimate is and then add to it, or if they would just be like, essentially start from scratch in some way.
If they start from scratch, there's no way they're going to be doing that good. At least I don't think they will. I think that what they have right now is really good. If they take the game, and like remake it, like remaster it, like, like just making it look better, more responsive, like a little bit of tweaks here and there. I think Sakurai would be down to do that. Like maybe add like one or two more characters. The thing that's wrong with that though is that I think that if they did do that, like if Sakurai added like another character or something, I think that the community would be like, they'd be putting a lot of pressure on him to just keep adding characters, like because he already did like 2 whole packs. Like they're probably going to be thinking, oh, there's 2 more packs. Like that's a lot of work. The way he described how he worked on those like characters that he added for DLC was like he played their games as best he could. He like played a whole bunch of them and like actually got a feel for what he wanted. He had to like really design those characters. It took a lot of time. So I think if he like adds any character to the game, like people are just going to be putting on the pressure to just add more and more, and I don't think that that's going to roll.
Well, that's the thing. People always want more. Like the fact
true.
that like looking at the roster, I'm like, where's Waluigi? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Bro,
there's
everyone's saying that.
there's always going to be a character that someone is like, why isn't he in Smash, or why isn't she in Smash? And that's the thing. There's always going to be someone. I remember like before the DLCs launched, like all the speculation about like what characters were going to come in the DLC. Like there was all sorts of wacky ass shit. People were talking about like Master Chief being in it, Dante,
Goku,
like the whole
Goku.
Fucking like let's put it this way, every character that ever ended up in fucking Fortnite. Like that's what they speculated.
Bro, do you know, I swear I had one of my friends was like so convinced they were gonna add like what was the character? Do you know the Kirby characters? Bandana D?
Oh, yep, Bandana D.
Yeah.
Yep, I heard Bandana D too.
So convinced it was either gonna be Bandana D or it was gonna be Waluigi, and I was like, "There's no freaking way!" Like, because
Waluigi all day long. I really fucking want Waluigi. I also didn't know
it's not gonna be that different. It's just he's just gonna like. I don't understand what this obsession is with Waluigi.
So,
I don't get it.
Do you want to know something crazy? And I don't know if you already know this or not, but did you know like Waluigi and Wario are actually not owned by Nintendo? Like they're not Nintendo characters technically. Yeah, they were created by like a third-party company. So like they're actually not owned by Nintendo.
I didn't know that at all. Holy crap.
Yeah, it's like like Pokemon is technically Nintendo, but it's not. It's made by
is it like Game Freak?
Yeah,
something?
Game Freak actually owns the IP to Pokemon characters. So I don't know if it's like one of those things where it's just like Waluigi was going to cost them money to put him in there, or if there was just like not enough of a move set to justify it.
That's definitely not it, because the way Nintendo got freaking Sora in this game.
I know.
Do you know how out of this world that is like out of like oh my god. And they put
Okay.
Sephiroth like the champions that whatever the champions they got in this game, right,
Yeah.
are just like mind blowing. That's why this was is such an incredible game. Like they easily probably could have gotten Waluigi in there if they really wanted to. But in all honesty, I don't think now, all the Waluigi lovers are gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that." I don't think that Waluigi is that unique of a character compared to the ones they added. I do not think Waluigi would have been that unique of a character. I think it would have been a great meme, you know, and like that's funny. Everyone's gonna be like, "Haha, that's awesome! Waluigi's in the game." But in all honesty, let's be real here. It's Waluigi compared to like Sephiroth and Sora and like
All
you
I'm
know
saying is we don't really need Rob the robot. Like,
okay, Rob actually has to be in there. He's got to be in there. I think a lot of people would argue though if they could take out any characters, they would take out sword fighters 100%. They would be like, "Oh, fudge Fire Emblem, forget it. Don't want to deal with it." People do not
yeah.
like sword fighters
Well,
in
that's
this
the thing.
game.
That it's just like they're always like, oh, another Fire Emblem character. What the hell? Like,
Right?
just like
I
why?
saw Byleth. I saw Byleth on release. I was like, "There's no way." Like, and I like Byleth. Byleth is a cool character, but I was thinking in my head, "There's no freaking way." Like, you did not just add another sword fighter every single time. I think the biggest meme I heard when I was like learning, Smash and like getting into it, I like watched some old videos. I like started to like hear about what the community had to say a lot. It was really interesting, and I like
Mm.
fell down this rabbit hole of people just like so mad that there's like sword fighters in the game, but they're all Fire Emblem characters. Like there's people making entire charts being like, you know, like okay, let's see, Mario characters. Oh, that makes sense because Nintendo. Pokemon characters. Why are there more sword fighters than any of his other games? Like
Yeah.
there's so many people that are upset about that. Honestly, personally, I am not complaining. I kind of like all the sword characters, but when I first saw Byleth, I had that initial thought like in the back of my head. I was like, huh. So this is what it feels like. So this is why everyone's so upset because I wanted my character all the time. Everyone wants it, but
Yeah.
as the character was like released, I played it a little bit and I thought Byleth was actually pretty sick. I was like, this character's kind of nice.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah,
like I said, there's always going to be somebody that's like, why isn't this character in the game? Like,
yeah, yeah.
why isn't like there's always going to be ones that they want in, which is why I think Nintendo will never actually stop making Smash games. Like, I think I honestly
Yeah.
do think that what's going to happen is they're going to ride this out, and then when it either A starts to taper off a little, that might not, or like B, they're just like we could use some money, then they might either re-release it as like for like a next gen version or whatnot. That would probably actually be the smartest thing they could do. Is just like take this game and then when the new Switch comes out, just re-release it as like a 4K option or something like that.
Yeah, I would play that 100%. I'd be down for that.
But that's the thing. They could do that. They would still make their money and then just like not just don't modify anything and just include all the DLC. That's the easiest way they could do it and probably the smartest with the least amount of like backlash. And if they're stupid, they'll do something like try to release another Smash Brothers game. And the other shitty part about that is if they try to do that and it doesn't have the roster that this game has right off the bat, people are gonna be so mad. Like just look at like all the previous rosters. I mean, I'm going all the way back now. Like the original
Yeah, when they
had
had like what, like 7, 10 characters, something
so
like that.
the original roster was 12 characters. And then if you go into Melee, it looks like let's see, 4, 9, 18. So it's 20 something. Yeah, let's say like just over 20. I think 24 characters. I could be wrong about that. Brawl only added a couple more. Nothing too crazy there. And then once you got into like the 3DS and Ultimate versions, that's when you're starting to get like the crazy ass roster. But like definitely the biggest jump up in roster was the current game by far.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, you look at like the previous one versus what it is now, you're just like, holy shit.
Yeah, they added so many characters, and
Yeah.
they even brought back old characters from games that they weren't like originally in there. Like, oh my gosh, like people were freaking out. I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't understand very much because I played Brawl and then I played Melee a little bit after that, and then I thought like, oh, okay, like I see some of these characters, and they're like bringing back like, they have the DLC characters from the other games, and people are freaking out, going like crazy, and
They essentially did what Pokemon should have done each time, which is just like they
well, like
improved
bring
the
it back, yeah.
yeah.
Instead of getting rid of an entire gen and being like, we're just gonna ignore that real quick, and then add this and pick and choose. I
I
can't stand that stuff.
I honestly think that's like Nintendo's biggest problem right now is their biggest franchises have this huge scope of characters and just stuff in them, and every single release people are expecting more and more and more, and it's kind of like it's like the monster they created. Like you've given us so much and now that's what everyone expects, and if we don't get that, everybody gets mad. It's just
I think that
insane.
everyone's gonna get mad either way at this point. So I think Nintendo's just mooching off of it and being like, you know what? There's no way. Like their excuse is, there's no way we could put this many characters into this game alone in this amount of time. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make this game without these characters. We're gonna have these ones in it, and people are gonna be mad. People are gonna be so upset, but they're gonna buy them anyways. Let's be real here. Like Nintendo knows they're gonna buy them anyways. Like it's just part of their process. Like I'm looking, like the greatest example would be like the Pokemon games, because like people are looking at the Pokemon games and they're like, why aren't these Pokemon in this game? Why isn't this gen here? And the company's like, like it was a lot of work. We wanted to keep it like original to the gen, like whatever. They can come up with any number of excuses they want, but
Yeah.
in reality, they don't need to add them all because they don't have to. Like at some point they probably will, who knows? But like it just saves on work for them, gives them the money that they wanted. Like why wouldn't they? Let's be
Yeah.
real here. Like why wouldn't they? I mean,
And
it sucks. But,
and they've tried like rebooting stuff. Like they obviously tried rebooting, essentially like kind of soft rebooting Pokemon, because like they did like Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go, and that just ended so badly. Like you can talk to anybody who plays Pokemon, they'll be like, yeah, you can start with literally any other game besides that one, you'd probably be okay. So
that's what I've heard too. Yeah, I've played a lot of the Pokemon games too, which is just like I get the idea. Yeah, it's like people would just be like, this game's better. Like it's the same thing in Smash. There's those diehard fans that will swear in their life that Melee is the greatest fighting game of all time. Like, and they still play it to this day. You know how old Melee is, right? Like,
oh dude, it's like I was thinking about that the other day, and I was like, that game was when it was my first job at a video game store, and that was one of the games that launched, like I think it was like the second or third month I was in the store, and we had to do a bunch of Melee tournaments. Like it was just like back to back to back to back to back Melee tournaments. And
in the store?
yeah, in the store. So the place I worked at, this is really going to date me for anyone who decides to listen to this, was
Yeah. So
was
for context, Dave, he's old. Okay, I'm more of the newer generation, so I don't know all this stuff. So he's gonna be like the retro expert. Let's be real here.
yeah. So like let's see, I was probably 20. I had to have been like 19, 20 years old at the time, but the store was called Game Crazy, and they literally had kiosks in the center of the store. They were like the demo kiosks, but they were just like LCD monitors hooked up to consoles. So like you had like one demo kiosk that had 3 monitors on it, and it had like a PlayStation 2 in one, an Xbox in another, and then a GameCube in another. And what we would do is during the tournaments, we would just swap out the PlayStation 2 for a GameCube, and then we would do essentially 2 matches at a time. So we would do like like the matches would go side by side on one of the kiosks, and then we would just bracket it out, which was pretty cool because like also very distracting. We realized that after for players, because like you're wondering who you're going up against as you're in a match against somebody, and you can see the screen right next to you. So I think at some point we just decided like it was just like a really good mind fuck to have these matches going on at once. But yeah, we were hosting matches like probably like at least once a month, sometimes every couple of weeks, and the draw for them would be huge. So we'd have people come in, and I think the only thing we like gave out was like a gift card or something like that. But it was cool because people would come in the store, and it was one of those things where it was like, if you ever want people to like come to your store and it's a video game store, host a tournament for something, because for the love of God, everybody will show up. At least they used to. Like that's how we got so many people in for like the Halo 2 midnight launch. We just hosted a Halo 1 tournament. We had like 8 screens all hooked up via LAN, and we were just playing Halo, and like we had like lines around the block, and that was insane. But like Smash was one of those games that was like, if we hosted a Smash tournament, we were guaranteed to get like 20-30 people in this tiny ass store, all playing Smash. And the best part too is they were like really big into obviously like Nintendo games, and we had like an old retro section that had like N64 games and Nintendo and SNES. And they would just come in and like they would come in just for the tournament, and we'd like leave with like bags and bags of fucking video games. And we were like, well, it's a win-win. We gave out like a $50 gift card, but we made like $500 in sales in the course of like 2 hours.
That's actually insane. That sounds like such a fun time, to be honest.
Oh, dude,
like,
it was.
There's like little things like that still to this day though. Like people throw little tournaments and stuff. Like not big name. Like, there's always the big tournaments, the ones that really count towards the overall score of players, like that are trying to like get the best for the season. But then there's like, there's small tournaments that still help out here and there, and maybe they're not official, maybe they are, but people will like to this day still set them up all the time, especially for Smash. Like Melee and Ultimate are always hand in hand lately, like everywhere. I actually went to my first tournament not too long ago, and it was just really eye-opening to me that they still had, like, I always knew Melee was a thing, I see it on Twitch, I see it everywhere else.
Yeah.
But really, like, being there, like, seeing the screens and displays and everything, and, like, because everyone had to get it all set up differently. Like, seeing that Melee tournament was actually, like, so hype, like, in person. Like, because the way someone described it to me was like the Melee crowd is still the Melee crowd. Like the players and people have grown up. They're a little bit more like chill. Like, let's be real here. Back then it was like kind of wild. But like,
it was sweaty back in the day. Like people got intense.
Oh yeah. It still gives you the same vibes though. Like you can like see a piece of history right there watching Melee. Like yeah, you have to give it like some respect when you're like watching it like there. Like it's just so much more like, it's just a different vibe. It's like you're looking at 2 different time zones, but they're both like so interesting and fun in their own way. Like I didn't compete in Melee, I competed in the Ultimate one, but I was definitely there watching the Melee section. Like when I was at a pools, I was like, damn, this is so sick.
Well, you have to think too, like the Melee roster, like it's a fairly tight roster. So 9, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 character roster. I might have miscounted that. No, that seems 20. Yeah, 25. Yeah, it's 25 characters.
Yeah, 26.
26. So out of that roster, like first of all, you have
that's more of a joke because everyone says 26 because they count Zelda and Sheik as different, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. But like if you're looking at this roster of characters, first of all, everybody will tell you Captain Falcon's broken when he's not. But besides that, it's actually a fairly balanced roster, like overall. And it's a very like core group of characters. Like it's not as expansive as it is in Ultimate, but I think that's why also people like it. It's like I said, you don't have to worry about as many like counter picks and stuff. On top of that though, like the movement system in Melee is a lot different than any other Smash game ever. Like it's
so on like as a player for Ultimate, after I did a lot of Ultimate, I was like, I went back to trying out Melee and I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea how to like play this game. Everybody in that game fast falls, so it's like I'm playing a freaking brick. Like I just like zoom, and then there's people who are like actually trying to fast fall faster than that. Like that game is so different in so many ways. It's like it's hard for me to play it. I'll admit it's so hard for me to play it. So basically what you were trying to say, I guess, was like that the roster was smaller, so there's a lot more skill involved because the characters had so long to be understood, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're talking about people that have played this game for like the better part of probably 20 years now,
and they still play it to this day.
Yeah, like that. It's the equivalent of me going back and like playing Halo 1 and versus somebody who's like only played Halo 5. Like I will fucking rock their socks off. But same thing
It's
with
true. It's
Melee
true.
though. You develop those skills over the course of such a long time that like it's almost a different game. Like there is no, like I don't even know what somebody would do to try and learn Melee now against people that have been playing it for that long.
I
That
mean, you can, but it's just gonna be like the moment you fight against a player that knows what he's doing, like you're just gonna be like, you're gonna be dumbfounded.
Yeah,
Like even if you
the
play another
skill
Smash
gap is
Bros.
going to
game,
be huge
yeah.
because like I remember when Smash first came out and a lot of the techniques used now definitely were not being used back when the game launched. Like that took the
Oh
course of
my
like
gosh, the
years
whole
and years.
slingshotting thing. I don't even like. I'm not even that good at that. Like, there's new skills that are being developed. Do you ever hear "Back to the Lab Again" like that vibe,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
people talk about that? Yeah, I can't remember his name for the life of me. He's this dude made this new technique and completely he it was such a big deal in the community in Ultimate. I mean, it's probably happened before for the other games, but like I said, I've mostly been following Ultimate, so it was like new to me.
Yeah.
But it was just so funny and like interesting to like see how this new technique was going to be working. I actually want to look at this. He
Yeah, I've
uh,
always been like curious as to like where this shit comes from. Like who's like thinking like,
oh,
oh, I
Grimmer,
know.
Grimmer. Yeah, that's his name, Grimmer. He made the tech and everything. It was called the Grimmer tech.
Oh my
Because he
god.
made it. He discovered it and like other thing. It was technically called like slingshotting, I think. Unless it was like something else he did. It's hard to remember, but basically I remember slingshotting was one of the big ones I heard a lot about and and that's the other thing I was gonna say. So like you would think that having a smaller roster would mean that, you've discovered everything you could in the game. But I'm telling you right now, right, there's stuff that changes even in Melee. To this day, like there are characters that have like changed in the tier list in Melee to this day. Like
Oh,
still
I'm not
still changing their
surprised.
skills around. Yeah, it's
The
crazy.
way I see this game, especially with it's like overall meta and like just learning new characters and the way it's developed over the course of time is kind of like speed running, especially with Melee. It's kind of like speed running like an older game. Like yeah, like there have been people that have been speed running like Castlevania and shit for like decades at this point, but that's not stopping somebody from coming in today and finding something else that changes the entirety of how the game is
Yes.
run
Yeah,
and
yeah,
beating
yeah.
world records. Like it
It's
happens all the time.
just like Mario 64. There's always a new tech. There's always a new ability, a new thing that breaks the game just enough to where it's like considered you're not cheating. But you're still doing something that people are gonna look at and be like, "Holy crap! Why didn't I think of that?" kind of thing. Like it it's just part of the game, to be honest. I guess that in Melee though, it's one of the things that I've seen. I don't think I see that happen too often in most fighting games though, right?
No.
Yeah.
Like a lot of fighting games, like outside of DLC characters and things like that, they're again, it's like the 2D fighters versus like when 3D came around. 2D fighters are very static. The only time anything really changes is if a character's broken and they patch it. But it's very rare that somebody learns like an entirely new combo chain that breaks the game. And it's mostly because like if you think about 2D fighting games, there's a lot of stuff put into place that like limits what people can do. So like if you get somebody in a corner, there will always be like some sort of like knockback, so you can't pin them into the corner. Like if you start comboing in a corner, it'll knock them back, or it will reduce the amount of damage you're doing. So it there's so many systems that are like tried and true in place to keep that game pretty much the same the entirety of it being around. Um, but you're looking at a very like static playfield and static environment where it's like the characters don't change that much unless there's a something's discovered that makes them overpowered. The levels don't change that much because you're looking at like essentially just like a small straight plane that they're fighting on with walls on each end. And with Smash Brothers, though, there's so much variety to it, and there's so many different characters with so many different play styles. I think it's much easier to constantly evolve each character and how they play, and like discover new parts of the system that are in place, because it's way less constricted than like other fighting games are. Like I'm sure like you've played like Guilty Gear and stuff like that. I mean,
Oh
how
yeah,
often
yeah,
does like Guilty Gear change outside of a new character or outside of a patch? Like
not very often, to be honest. Yeah, it's pretty
exactly.
much the same thing. As I was trying to think of a fighting game after I started saying that, I was trying to think. I was like, I've played my fair share of fighting games, but
Yeah.
I don't really know. I can't really think of too many, to be honest. Unless it's like, I think what I was gonna say was like, along with what you had to say, I think that it also has to go, in unison with the fact that the game is so old and still so popular. Like, I think that if fighting games didn't drop off the moment a new version of it came out, it would we'd probably be able to see more of those like very specific like frame text stuff in other fighting games. Because like the moment Street Fighter 6 comes out, who's gonna be playing Street Fighter 5? Like, who's gonna be
I
playing
mean,
the other Street?
there's still
Like,
going to be people playing like Street
yeah,
Fighter 5 probably, cuz like you don't know what state Street Fighter 6 is going to launch
yeah,
in. But like
but
with that being
yeah,
said, there's normally what I call like a kind of like a horizon, where it's like Street Fighter 5 still has like a huge roster and all these characters, and is now built up to a level where it works consistently all the time. There's not many like glitches or anything found out anymore. Most of the stuff has been patched out.
yeah.
And with that being said, like Street Fighter 6 is probably going to launch with less characters and so on and so forth. But there's going to be like a precipice where it's like Street Fighter 6 ultimately will start getting more characters and becoming more stable, and we'll have a bigger player base because
Yeah,
again it's a
exactly.
newer
Yeah.
game, and then Street Fighter 5 will just kind of be left by the wayside.
Yeah, like a lot of a lot of traditional fighting games, let's say like 2D fighters, whatever you want to
Mm,
call it, right? A lot of those games, when a new version of that game comes out, a lot of it's just gonna move on to that new version. Unless the new version is absolute trash, which is, very rare, hopefully nowadays.
yeah.
They're not gonna really care about the old one at that point. Like they're not really gonna like keep going because who's gonna do that? Like there's definitely still gonna be a play base. Like people are still gonna play it. Online's still gonna probably be a thing, especially with rollback netcode hitting so many games.
Yeah.
But but with the fact that like the new version is out, people are obviously gonna want to learn everything about that, especially pro players or people who have been playing it forever. They're gonna want to try something brand new, and that's just the way it always has been. But I think in Melee's context is that it just had such a die-hard fan base. Like it was just so focused on that it had the time for all these very tiny, like nitty gritty details to be like noticed in every character. Like every little frame was taken into consideration more carefully as time went on. And I think that if people still stuck to like a game that was really old, like let's say Third Strike, like let's say Third Strike blew up again. I mean, it's probably still really big in the Street Fighter community. I love Third Strike too. I know you do.
Oh yeah, Third Strike
And
is excellent.
and let's say like that game got as much attention as Melee does today. Like let's say in every Street Fighter 6 tournament there's a Third Strike tournament happening like right next to it. I don't know if that actually happens, but let's say like it does. And I think that they would find so many new things in it if they just kept playing and playing and playing like all these years. Like I think that there would be so many like little details that would be noticeable. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
yeah, I think that's exactly why Melee has it going like that.
Yeah. But I honestly think too, like come like 10 years from now or whatnot, the Ultimate will probably be the same way. Because you have
Oh
to
yeah,
think like more people now are playing Ultimate than any other Smash game before it. Especially like
yep.
even though Melee is still popular, like you have to think the player base for Ultimate has to be huge because of just how many people has have Switches,
It
and how
it
many
is
people are still picking it up.
insane. It is insane how big Ultimate got. I like so many players came out of like nowhere and are just going crazy with Ultimate. And it actually is like it's such a good feeling like seeing your favorite like one of your favorite fighting games being like, it released and everything went crazy. And now it's like massive. It's popping off. People love it. But it's just I don't know. It's actually pretty impressive, to be honest. And I think that they definitely will find a lot of details in it because, to be honest, like when I first started playing Ultimate, I saw characters that were in the game and I was like, why is this character not broken yet? Like, I play a character in the game when I first started playing, I was like, this character is going to be busted. And sure enough, later on, someone's playing that character and they actually are going crazy with it. They're just absolutely like destroying people with it. And I was like, I just thinking to myself, sitting here watching it, I'm like, I knew it. Like, before before anyone ever played Cloud, okay? And I'm talking about oh man, what was his name? Uh Spargo. Spargo was the one I was thinking of. Before Spargo started popping off with Cloud like crazy at tournaments and like defeated the MK Leo like a couple times. I was thinking to myself when I first started up like Ultimate, I was like, Cloud has actually got a nice kid on him. Like Cloud actually feels like he's a good character. And all my friends were like, Cloud's alright. Like he's not that great. He's not that great. His recovery's getting the bull. He's terrible. And I'm like, bro. I was like, but he's got so much like good damage. He's got the cross slash. He's got a projectile. His like down tilt covers so much. It can like move, but it can also like trip up. It avoids. It's a hitbox. Like and his like limit. It's such a strong kill move. And I don't know. And then the character started doing good. I feel like that if I could do that, like starting up in the game first, like day one, and thinking this character is gonna be crazy, I promise you, someone who is very much more experienced than I am, which is not that much more experienced they need to be, but I feel like if someone could easily, with more knowledge, find the characters that I probably thought that sucked and be like, nah, this character's top tier now, you know, with enough time, I think it'll happen.
Yeah.
Like the roster right now has already been changing a lot, especially with all the DLC characters being added, and I think that if time like keeps this game alive for a long, long time, like I think if this game is like gonna keep on going just like Melee, the whole roster is going to get flipped upside down because people are just going off of DLC right now, all right? Like DLC ended, no more characters are being added. The roster is still staying kind of consistent with what it has. I think this whole roster is going to get flipped up upside its head if it keeps on going down the path of like not stopping for the game community. Like they're just going to keep grinding it out, keep getting more top players. I think I'm going to fall off super hard, harder than I already am. I think I'm going to like look at the game later on. Like who knows? Like maybe like 4 years from now, I'm gonna get onto the game one day, just be playing some Ultimate. I'll get online, I'll see some stuff I've never seen before. Like so, it's just gonna completely mix me up. I don't even know how it's gonna feel.
But
Because at that
that's like
moment,
a huge thing though, because like think about it, like
yeah,
you might be falling off now because of the like it might be for things like that you haven't even thought of, like the way the community is going, or the fact that like the DLC characters just came out, the balance might be a little bit weird. But coming back to the game like a year from now or 2 years from now, you might have like an entirely different opinion and actually might
yeah,
reinvigorate your desire to like get good again. And like for me, I just see it as like now I don't have to worry about like 14 billion characters coming out, like, and just like fucking up the whole like meta of the game and who's good and who's bad. Like now it's like everything's out there. Like it's done. Everything's been released. I can actually start playing now, figure out what characters I like, see what characters are good, and start working towards actually getting better at the game without fucking Minecart Steve coming around and just like whipping my ass out of the blue. Like
yeah,
it's one of those things where it's like it once the game is in this state, everything kind of changes and it takes a while. Like I remember when MK11 released their final like character DLC characters from DLC, and a lot of the like meta of that game changed, not just because like every time they release a fucking DLC character it breaks the game, like every single time in Mortal Kombat. Like it comes out, game gets broken, then they patch it, and then you can actually like it's kind of like starting from square one again. You got to figure out who's good, who's bad, what was tweaked, what wasn't, and then go from there. But like knowing now that like I could load up Mortal Kombat 11 and get good with a character that I know like I can play well with, and hold my own and not worry about like next week fucking them launching like another Freddy Krueger DLC and that guy kicking my ass. Like it's kind of like it gives you more motivation to get good at the game, knowing that you're not going to have to invest not only just like more time to learning new characters, but like more money into DLC. I think that's going to be huge. And I really do think, though, that if they're smart, what they'll do is just wait for the next Switch version to be released, like the Switch console, and just release like a better version of this game, like just with like enhanced graphics. Like, don't tweak any of the characters. Like, once you stop patching it, just release that game, and just better resolution, like smoother frame rate. So if you have fucking like 8 people playing Ice Climbers, it's not going to lag the game down to like 30 frames per second. Like,
well, that's just Nintendo Online. That's really there's no way they're gonna fix that. There's no freaking way.
Yeah, that is kind of like a Nintendo thing. But I mean, I think now with the game being just like quote unquote complete, you'll see a lot more people playing more and more of it, and the whole game starting to change again. But it won't be as much of like a flux as it was for the past few years, where it's like everybody's just like on the edge of their seat waiting for the next DLC character to launch, and then like be like, oh fuck, the character I use is just going to be useless now, you know?
Yeah, yeah. That's how it is for a lot of games. You know, a lot of fighting games will always have that. Um, for Smash, I know that there's some DLC characters in the game that people are just still frustrated about. I personally think that some of the DLC characters are kind of busted in a way, like just roster wise. Like, there's just some things that I don't understand why they would do that. Like, they just so basically, you know, Bayonetta's like where she like slows down time around her and everything. Her
witch time, right?
Yeah. There's just something weird about giving one of the most mobile and easily like accessible damage and like great kit. Like, why would you give Witch Time to Pyra/Mythra? I don't like. I get that it might be part of their game, but why? Like, that just makes the character so much. I can't tell you how many times I've been playing against my friend or like online or whatever, because he plays Pyra/Mythra really well. I can't tell you how many times I've been playing against him. I feel like I got him on the ropes, right? On one stock, like I'm ahead. I got this combo. I'm like constantly hitting him. I know he's gonna come in. I know he's gonna air dodge into me, or like, you know, whatever it's gonna be. I hit it. I feel great about it, and out of nowhere, it just Witch Times. Boom. Sorry, you don't get to continue your combo. You don't get to hit me, but now I have advantage because you're slowed. Okay, let me just switch to Pyra/Mythra, start carrying you out of here, like, or doing insane damage with like whatever move you want to do, like forward tilt or whatever. Like, it's just, it's so sad to me when I fight against Pyra/Mythra, and I feel like I try so hard, but it could also just be bad, like me being bad, you know. Like, but there's just some things on characters that I just am so surprised they still have in the game. And after the patch, after they said no more patching, this is the last patch, I had my fingers crossed. I was like, please, please just take that thing away from Pyra/Mythra, or like please make Kazuya do like less of a kill confirm, like let the launch distance not be as hard. But no, it's still just as bad as it was when I first saw it. But that just means, like, you know, that's the way the character's always going to be. So at least the character can't get any more broken than they already, like, quote unquote are, if they aren't broken. But like, let's just, like, the thought process is that they're not going to get any better than what they already are now. So you may as well just deal with it and try your best to play around it. Like, that's what it just comes down to.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more of like people getting used to expect those things from those characters, and then working around them. Like, the more you encounter it, the more you're going to be prepared. Yeah, the more you're going to be prepared for it. And as annoying as it is, like, they left it in the game for a reason. Like, they did. Like, that's the thing. They left it in the game for a reason.
For better or for worse.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, like I said, over the course of time, the game's going to change anyways, especially now with like the final patch being released, all the characters being released. And there might be something even more broken than the game that people just have not discovered yet. But the game's now, and like that, it is what it is. It's essentially like, you know, you just went out and bought the original Smash Brothers cart. It's not going to get patched. It's not going to get changed. You know, be able to play what you like, the characters you want, and for better or worse, it is what it is. Yep.
And like I said, you know how like I was talking earlier about how like I feel like I have to play harder against certain characters. I
Yeah.
think that with time, like with how you're saying it, I feel like in time, I guess I can see that like difficulty spike of like, I get to play against uh, whatever character I get to play against a Mario versus I get to play against like a Joker. Like I feel like that difficulty spike is gonna slowly like disappear, and I'm just gonna start saying every character is gonna be good in their own way. Every character is gonna have a gimmick I have to play around, and I'm gonna get more used to it the longer I play it. It's just right now. I'm giving like thoughts like right now, but I can see that in the future definitely being a thing where like you don't even notice it anymore. Like you're just kind of like, this is the character. I know what to do. Got to fight them like this. Like it is what it is. You know.
Oh yeah, like there are still characters I play in 2D fighter play against in 2D fighting games that drive me fucking insane. I was playing
I know it. Yeah.
I forgot what I was playing
I,
the other day, but I was playing it was one of the Street Fighters, and fucking Blanca rocked me.
Bro,
Like
everyone hates Blanca. I don't even know what it is. I've never even fought as Blanca. But I know that the charge attacks on Blanca go crazy from what I hear in Street Fighter, right?
yeah, yeah.
Like
So like everybody has those characters in specific games. And it's just like you get better at going up against them.
I know for me it's Happy Chaos and Guilty Gear Strive. So sad. Can't stand him.
Yeah, and eventually you just start like working around them. Like I used to fucking hate fighting against Valdo and Soul Calibur. Like I used to, oh man, it used to drive me goddamn insane. But then like after a while of just playing against really good Valdo players, now I just wreck them with whoever I'm playing with, so it just doesn't even matter anymore. But
Next you
like,
get it. You know,
yeah,
you get the style. You know what they're gonna go for.
yeah, exactly. Eventually, you just start learning what the character's capable of, and like what their limits are, and then working around it. Like that's I mean, that's realistically what all fighting games are. And again, that's why I used to say Smash is not a fighting game, and it used to drive. It
Yeah.
usually was when we were playing matches,
I remember. I remember.
but like it is a fighting game. Like the strategies that are in 2D fighting games and like regular 3D fighters still apply in Smash Brothers. It's just like it's just a different style. Like it's literally just a different style of fighting game. I was talking to somebody at work the other day about it, and they're like, "Oh, it's fucking Smash is just not a fighting game. It's just like I play it and like we go like,
Big
yeah,
it's a big communities. They still say that.
yeah, and it's like it's a fighting game. It also gives you the option to not make it a fighting game. Like it becomes
Yeah.
far less of a fighting game when it's like you're doing like 8 player battles. Like you know what I'm
Or
saying?
like with items or like stages that are like doing their active stage morphs and they have like obstacles and it's like, oh, like,
Yeah,
it's, yeah, it can be a family friendly party game. Like that's the whole point of it. That was what it was originally supposed to be done. That's what Sakurai said. He was like, I intended for this game to be a party game so that people could play it with their families and it'd be fun and everything like that. Like that's what he intended it for.
yeah,
Calling it
and you can
not a
see it.
fighting
You
game.
can see
Yeah.
it that in every
Yeah.
respect. I mean, with the items and just like how many fucking different stages are in Smash Brothers. Yeah, everybody.
Yep.
You know, if
Yeah.
you're doing any tournaments, you see the one, but like trust me, there are others out there. Like,
Yeah,
and
oh my gosh, this stages that's like rotating like a planet. You gotta like jump around the stage. And the
yeah,
custom stages, don't even get me started on that nonsense. I mean,
yeah,
that's
it's the
some
thing.
crazy stuff.
This
It's not
game,
nonsense isn't bad, but it's nonsense isn't like you would never imagine someone would make this as a custom stage.
yeah, there's so much variety in this game. Like, yes, it is a party game. Like that's what it was designed for, but that doesn't make it
Yep.
any less of a fighting game if you like take out the items and just have like a standard just like one plain fighting field to deal with. Like
Yeah,
it's
like
just
that's
as
why
much of
the
a fighting
rules.
game.
Yeah, that's why the rules were made to make it more of a fighting game. Like it's a very customizable game. Like you could play like one stock, you could play like one hit, you can play like there's so many different ways to play it.
And
So it's like,
that's why so many people
yeah,
play it, I think too, is because it's
yeah,
like it's
yeah.
not
It's
just your
diversity.
yeah, it's not just a fighting game. Like if I were to like encourage anybody to play like a 2D fighting game online, like fucking Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter 6, they would look at me like I have fucking 18 heads because they're like, "No, I'm going to get wrecked online." But
Yeah.
if you say like, "Hey, let's play some Smash online with like 2 or 3 buddies," that changes the whole dynamic and they're like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Like cuz
Anyone can play it, you can play it anyway.
Exactly. And you can have it can be a giant fucking mosh pit of mayhem where like shit's flying across the screen, you have Pokemon everywhere and fucking
Yeah.
like
Pokeballs, you got your like freaking items, your invincibility items, like something
yeah, exactly.
crazy.
Somebody gets like the fucking Donkey Kong hammer and
The
it's like
baseball bat, just
yeah,
insta kills.
it goes absolutely insane, but again, it's literally a different type of fun. Same game, different type of fun
Yeah.
than you winning a one-on-one match against somebody online. Like it gives you so much variety that I feel like people that discount this game as just like, oh, it's not a fighting game, so I'm not gonna play it.
Yeah.
It's kind of stupid. Like I think this is a better party game than Mario Party at this point because like all the Mario Party games I've played in the past like fucking 10 years are garbage, and I lose
Well,
interest
they're
after
pretty
like
much
two games.
yeah, they're pretty much always the same game. I feel that I see why people love Mario Party though, because it's a really fun game to play with your friends because it can be luck based and it can also be skill based. Like it's fun. But when if I had to pick between the two, obviously I'm gonna pick Smash because I'm biased. But
Yeah,
like y- okay, but like the point that I was gonna make was people can say that it's not just a fighting game, but you can't say that it's not a fighting game at all. Like Smash Bros is definitely one of those games that can be anything it wants at like any time. So like saying that it can't be a fighting game is just wrong. And saying that it's just a fighting game is also wrong. A party game might be a better way to describe it because a party game can be played in different ways, right? I don't really know what I would call it, I guess. I guess I call it like a hybrid fighter, maybe.
yeah.
Something like a better way of saying it.
That's the thing. It's a very hard game to label in general because like it does so much so well. Like look at even was it the spirits mode or whatever? That's like
Yep, yep.
it's essentially a fucking board game mixed with a
Story
fighting
mode.
game. Yeah, it's like
Yeah, your own little adventure. I mean, most fighting games have story modes, but that one in particular is very unique. You literally have to build around every challenge, or you just brute force it like any way you want, and
yeah,
you unlock all the characters. You have a great time. I played it like I think I played it like twice. I love the story mode. It was fun. It was actually really fun.
yeah.
That's how I actually learned a lot of Smash before I did anything competitive or anything like fighting my friends in like very sweaty matches. Before I did anything like that, I played the story mode a ton. That's how I think I got really good because I would put myself against these like weird like odds or like these weird fighters. There's like a
Oh yeah, there are certain
every
matches on that board where you're just like, how the fuck am I supposed to beat this?
yeah,
Like
and then
you'll
you just
go in
have
and you'll
to
get wrecked in like two
yeah.
seconds.
There's like one where like the entire floor is poisoned, so you're constantly taking damage, but they also have like a hammer and you have to like avoid them. Or there's like one where like they have shields on their back or they're covered in metal and they don't jump too high, but they do a lot of damage and you can't launch them. Like there's all kinds of different ways of playing it and like different items that make it so unique. And I think that's what makes it one of the most incredible fighting games because of the fact of how well you can learn it by playing against things like that. Like you can learn the game so much more. I think that the entire rest of the game is just an extra training mode. In all honesty, like in my eyes, because when I'm playing the game, I'm playing story. I'm playing with my friends on some stupid, like some smash get ball map, like where you just like have to hit each other into like these like areas and you get a point, or like something stupid like that. Playing in those awkward and strange fighting styles or like going through the story, it teaches you a lot about the game's actual mechanics. Like it makes you actually try to do stuff, like trying not to get hit at all without being able to hit the other person. It shows you your movement on the stages. It teaches you like when you can grab ledge for your invincibility frames or like whatever it is. I think that not only is a like if you look at it from a perspective of like, oh, I want to get good at this game, you can see everything else in the game as an extra training mode. And I think that a lot of fighting games might actually start doing that because it lets casual players have fun on their own without getting brutalized by like, I don't know, like your best friend or like someone online. And it allows them to actually like learn the game at their own pace in their own way. And I think that's also why a lot of new competitors came into the scene with Smash Ultimate because I don't think a lot of the other ones had too much of that. I know Brawl had it. I know Smash 4 probably had it. I didn't play Smash 4 too much. with the whole like hitting the targets mode and everything.
Yeah, they
But
were
this,
they were in
yeah,
stuff like Melee, and but
yeah,
they weren't
not to this
anywhere.
extent.
Yeah, they weren't
Yeah,
anywhere near what this mode is.
you
Like this
you can
is
just
one of
do
the best
so,
tutorials ever for how to
yeah,
like get actually good at a game.
you can do so much more, but you don't realize you're learning it. You're just trying to play, the story mode. A kid's gonna turn on the game and play a story mode, and they're gonna be like, I gotta get through this, and then they'll like the game so much after they complete it, they'll go online and just wreck people because
Yeah,
they're
and
like
that's
they
not
don't
to say
realize
though
they're
that
learning.
yeah, they don't, it's also like not like a brutal tutorial either. Like yes,
Yeah,
there are matches that are rough, but like then you just modify like what spirits you have, and then you can make it. It's essentially you can make the
you
game
make it
as
as hard
easy.
as easy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can make it as easy or as hard as you want it to be. And if you're really learning how to play the game, like, and you want to get good at it, like, you can just like crank that shit as like high as you want. Just like don't use anything that's going to really benefit you, and see how far you
yeah.
make it. You know?
Or use even less. Use things that'll restrict you. Like it's crazy. You can make yourself super super heavy with the metal thing, and then try to not get hit. Like I mean, I don't know if that'll work out for you, but you can try it, right? Like that's just the way the game is. It's very very detailed, and all the items can change like almost anything about a character. They can make them big or small, do less or more damage, make them like scarier or not scary. Like that's what makes the items and all the other game modes so unique to teaching you how to play the game. And I think that and I'm comparing that to like training modes in like traditional fighting games. Like you sit down there, you go into the training mode and you just practice a combo over and over and over. You reset over and over and over.
Oh
And
yeah,
some
or
people
it gives
don't.
you the
Yeah,
dial of combos where it's like, hey,
yeah, yeah.
just hit this button combination, and
And then
once
you'll
you
pass the
pass,
next level and
yeah.
then yeah.
But like you're doing that button combination one time. Like I can't remember that shit. Like I remember going through an entire Killer Instinct tutorial, and I'm like, I have learned nothing from this.
Yeah. And I think that the reason why most of the other fighting games have such a smaller fan base is because the way that they practice and the way they get better is so much more like this is not to come off as an insult to anyone, but in some people's cases, it's mind numbing for them. It's harder for them to focus. Like they can't. People aren't going to be like 100% on it if they feel like there's just no hope. And I think that's what really makes the difference between like why there's so many players in different fighting games and why like some fighting games aren't as popular as other ones. I think it's definitely like a skill gap at that point. Like it's a big deal. And like I remember when I was trying to learn some fighting games, I like when we played the Third Strike, and you were just ulting on me every 2 seconds. I was like, I don't know how to do the freaking quarter circle. Okay, like I can do it in other games, but I didn't get it in that one. I was trying to do the quarter circle, you just Oro, just freaking throwing me around. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do, but like it's definitely has a thing to it. Like if you don't have anyone else around you playing the game at your level, or if you don't have any like encouragement to like learn this character, like learn this game, then you're not gonna play it. Like you're
Yeah.
not gonna do good at it. That's just straight up facts.
All right. So we've been going for like an hour and 20 minutes. All right.
Jeez.
So, my last question is for anybody that's like looking to get into Smash Brothers, and like now that everything's said and done, everything's out. Is it a game that you would recommend people like trying to jump into now, and possibly like start playing online and getting better at?
You asking me?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Personally, uh, and so you're asking if I think that it's worth people's time, basically.
Yes. Yes. Now that everything's said and done, DLC characters out, all patches are out. The community's kind of like not static, but like the community's built up to where, everybody's playing Smash now essentially. Like do you think somebody new could pick up this game today and start learning stuff and eventually, be a great Smash player?
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think that if someone has the drive to do it, like if someone looks at Smash Bros, never played it in their life, and thinks, "Damn, I want to get good at that game," I think like in any game you could do it, but I think in Smash specifically, I think it has a much easier time for people to learn it. I think it's a very like, and that's just me saying that, but overall, I could easily see like new players that have never picked up a fighting game before getting into Smash Ultimate and actually being pretty good. Like if you put in a little bit of time, because of how quickly you can learn it, I think that it's definitely worth it. Um, but that's also, it's hard to say for everyone, because some people are going to look at it and think, I'm just going to be good right off the bat. Well, that's not going to happen. Maybe, maybe not, but,
Hey, I'm
on
still not good
most
at
like,
this game, and I've probably clocked in a decent amount of hours
hey,
between
listen,
like
listen,
flights on planes and stuff. Yeah,
between us playing, you can try and learn to the best of your ability, but for some people, it just won't click. I think it's worth it overall for like anybody who just wants to play Smash? I would just say if you want to play the game, just play the game. For any game that goes for. For Smash personally, if you want to get good at Smash, like it's any fighting game is just gonna take time. Any fighting game you're gonna need to fail and fail, and you're gonna have to learn your lesson over and over, and you'll get good. But if you just want a good fighting game, or like for your friends and family, like chilling out with some friends or whatever, I think it's a great purchase. I think it's really good. Even if you guys aren't trying to get sweaty in it, like you probably end up will. You know, you'll probably end up getting there.
yeah,
So yeah, I would probably recommend it. Yeah, I would probably recommend it easily.
yeah. I would say I recommend it at this point. There was a time where I was like playing Smash, and they were still releasing characters and stuff, where I was like, "Fuck this game." I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm never gonna get good at this game because there's just always something new coming that's just like wrecking my day. But I think now that like everything's said and done, everything's out. You're everybody's pretty much on the same playing field. Like if you're going out and you're buying this game and you're getting all the DLC, uh, you're going to be just like everybody else. And I think talking about the spirits mode in all the different modes, there's definitely a good base for learning this game without having to go online and do like 1v1s all day. Like I think a new player could come in, go through like spirits mode, uh probably do some like just standard like unlocking characters by going through like the standard adventure mode, and then just hopping online every now and again. I think they could definitely learn to play this game. And
Yeah.
now, especially with how many like you could just like go on YouTube and look up some of the best Smash players and see what they're doing,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
learn from
That,
them too. I think everybody has like a solid chance to be a good Smash player if it's the type of game that they want to try like right off the bat. And I would
yeah.
even say it's still the best of the party fighting games. Like
Definitely.
definitely
I
better
think it
than the
might actually
Nickelodeon
be.
one.
I think it might actually be like the. Oh, yeah, that's debatable because people are gonna be biased. I think overall, probably you're right.
Yeah.
Um, I know that for a fact that when I started learning Smash, like I actually like got sucked in by watching other players and being like, damn, I want to get that good, and just watching them just play matches on Twitch, or YouTube or whatever, and you just start to get like an idea of what you're supposed to expect from certain characters, and that's actually when I think I got like better at Smash is when I was watching actual pro players play and then just trying to mimic it as best as I could. Like, there's such a big community out there. There's so much content for you to like get into this game. It's insane. It's honestly, it's well and above available. Like, you know. So yeah, I think someone could easily do great.
Awesome. Well, I think that's gonna be it. Like, I think we've talked the hell out of Smash. What do
I
you
think there's a
say?
lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about. Let me be real here. But to cut the time short, yeah, we should probably
Oh,
leave
I'm
it.
I'm sure this probably won't be the last Smash episode because like I know for a fact like I'm gonna want to talk like older Smash games because I've recently started playing a little bit of Melee.
Yep.
Thank you, Dolphin Emulator.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Or Skippy. Skippy is
Oh,
really good too.
Skippy. Yeah. So like I've been playing a little bit of Melee, so I'm definitely gonna revisit Smash Brothers at like some point in another future podcast. But like this one was good. Had a we talked quite a bit in depth in Ultimate. I'm
We
really
talked
happy
about
with
Ultimate
it.
before this too. Like when before we even did the podcast, we talked about Ultimate. I remember.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah. All right. So I'm gonna call it here. Thank you, Logan, for coming on and talking all the Smash.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know what I'm doing for my next episode yet, but on my little sheet here it says I should hint at next episode. But I got so many games that I want to go through that I have no idea what the next one is going to be.
I think they should probably do some teasers at like options for people to like be like, oh, that sounds interesting. Like whatever games that you have in mind, like you can go off of like a little bit of the list.
So
like some hints.
So what I'm working on right now, and this is for anybody, any of the 6 people that downloaded the first episode that might download this one. I'm working on doing a Patreon poll at least once a month, so that way people can vote for what game will be in at least one of the podcasts for the month. But I'm still working on changing and like editing the Patreon, so that will happen. There's gonna be tons of posts and stuff there. I also might just do like a Twitter one at some point, but I don't know. So I'm still working.
Really cool for like people to make game recommendations, even if like we haven't played it. That'd actually be like so sick, because then we could like actually play it, like first time impressions of it or whatever. That'd be really fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I'm always down for playing something new, because I've played so much that it's hard to find unique stuff to begin with.
It's also hard to really like pinpoint a game, because I know that on the list that you made, like I saw it, and like all the games that you listed were like great, but like we already started talking. I remember we were messaging each other and we were already thinking of like adding like 2 or 3 more, like out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, there's just so
too
many.
Yeah.
And it was also funny because I was talking about this podcast to somebody that I work with now, and I was saying like it's a majority of it's just like great games. Like we're not going to be like bashing on games. It's like, oh, a positive video game podcast.
We can bash.
That's weird.
we can bash on them. There are some games that I think people just want to hear trash talk on, but
yeah,
it depends. More or less, it'll be positive.
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of the games on the list are what I would consider some of the greatest like games I've ever played in some form or another, and it's crazy because like games are still coming out that are like really good. Like God of War Ragnarok is coming, and yeah, I'm dying to play that. This holiday season's going to be rough. I would even argue that Modern Warfare 2 isn't actually a good game this year. So
right? Especially since they're not going to be making any more after, which is fantastic. I love that idea.
Yeah,
at least not for like 2 years, 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, they're doing a 2-year cycle now because Microsoft's probably going to buy them and force them to do that.
Man, that would be nice.
Let's just hope they don't ruin it like they ruined Halo Infinite, and I'll be happy with that.
True, I hear a lot of people talk about that.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna be a podcast for a future day.
I can already tell.
But yeah, I'm gonna end it here. All the links for how to contact me, if anybody wants to contact me with like game recommendations and stuff, are going to be in the description for the podcast and the description for each episode. If you want to do it that way, you can also rate the episode on iTunes. I don't know if Spotify does. I don't think they do, but if
like thumbs up and stuff.
Thumbs up like that. Yeah, and if you
just smash that like button.
Oh God, yeah. No, I more just want people to talk, and I'm going to set up eventually a public Discord for anybody that listens to the podcast. That way they can communicate and talk
maybe
about
ask
the episode.
Questions. Yeah, ask some questions. That would be really cool.
Exactly. Question, comment on stuff, the whole 9. This is also going up on YouTube as well. I'm just going to have some pretty much like bare bones Smash footage going over it, and but if they want to hear it that way, they can. So it's going to be everywhere. So yeah, that's going to be it. Thanks for listening, and I will see you guys next week, hopefully with another episode, and have an awesome day. Peace.
Yep. Peace.